Thank you very much for your time once more. And I guess one of the problems is that many of those buildings weakened by the original quake have actually been damaged once more by this second one.
Yeah, I mean, our team were actually travelling. They were actually in the area, the epicenter of the new earthquake that happened, and it was quite quick succession. There was one around 6.3, and then there was one a few moments later at 5.8, and of course it triggered a tsunami warning as well at the time. And I think people are just terrified to go back into buildings right now. The situation is that these buildings, some of these buildings are still standing, have been weakened. There's been cracks, and people are now worried. I was speaking to some of our staff, and they were saying that some of their children, middle of the night, prefer to be sleeping outside. They were too scared to be sleeping inside, and these are young children.
Yeah, and I think this particular area is Antakya, which of course is near the border with Syria, where it's very difficult for the aid agencies to get to. I mean, the other reports coming in is the aftermath of trying to get things like fresh drinking water, and even suggestions that we've had outbreaks of cholera.
Yes, that's one of the biggest worries, especially in Syria right now. There has been an outbreak of cholera, and look, one of the reasons is there's a lack of access to safe drinking water, but also the sewage systems, the sanitation, toilet facilities. There is a lack of, obviously, majority of people would have been using these facilities within their buildings. Now these buildings are destroyed. A lot of people are staying in centres and other places that don't really have adequate hygiene facilities. So this is going to be a major issue, and it's a big concern as well if there is a major cholera outbreak as well.
And what's your the picture you're getting from your workers there on the ground about the relief effort that's getting through in terms of clothing and food, medical supplies and so on? I mean, are they beginning to get on top of the logistics, particularly with the situation in northern Syria?
Yeah, the logistics, I mean, look, ultimately, people, we're not talking about systems in the UK where there's a proper road structure. There are places where large lorries or trucks can't get to, so you're having to then get items from larger trucks into smaller trucks. There are places where the roads are damaged, so, that creates an issue. You're going to have to need four-wheel drives. And there are places, unfortunately, that not all agencies actually aware these places are. Most people have moved to the countryside, for example, and getting to some of these locations could take 4, 5, 6 hours drive. And he's finding those pockets of people. Of course, a lot of people will stay together, but there are people who've just moved as far away from buildings as they can. And he's getting aid to these people. I mean, we're lucky in the sense that winter is dying out, meaning, we've seen the back end of winter in Syria. It's still fairly cold at night. But, we're glad to see that. But even then, even if people are sleeping in tents or makeshift shelters, it's simply not warm enough for people to sleep outside, basically.
Yeah, and we're just seeing some live pictures of the sort of clean-up with these diggers and the cranes trying to just clear the rubble. I mean, this, in terms of trying to get any kind of normalcy, is going to take years, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I was actually talking about this yesterday with the team. You're talking thousands of years of civilization has been destroyed in a matter of minutes. There was I visited there. Last time I was there, I visited a church that was 1900 years old. And there's a whole community around this church. There's houses, there's shops, there's businesses, etc., that were reliant on tourism coming into that area. And that's all been destroyed. That this church and mosque now has been totally flattened. And to rebuild this, I mean, how do you rebuild architectural design from 15, 16, 1700 years ago? It's almost impossible. So it's lost a lot of history. And, the modern time, the buildings, some of these buildings have been totally destroyed. We've heard about the Newcastle United, ex-Newcastle United footballer who passed away. I mean, I know the area he was staying in. These were pretty new buildings. And so if they didn't stand a chance with this earthquake, you can just imagine what the damage is for some of the older ones.
Absolutely.